Hey, welcome back, Rankers. You having a good day? Last week I was on Sky News, so for those of you who asked about that and where do you find it, you just go to my YouTube channel and it's up there. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about why Ford is better than Holden. But before we get to that, and that's because we've had big motor racing sports over the weekend, I thought, hey, this is topical. So what happened was, last Thursday, Google brought out another announcement about moving from an Mdot site to a mobile responsive site. And Mdot is what was used as a subdomain for when businesses were creating mobile sites. It was the first way we used to do it back in the day, when we first started having phones that could actually look at websites. And that was because it was, different coding, you had to do it just for that device or a bunch of devices. Since then, though, we've had responsive design for a number of years, which just basically automatically resizes the site so it can be viewed on every device. And you have one site. The problem with going Mdot, say stuartmedia.com.au, is that we would have to have a separate site there and maintain a whole separate site. The other problems that you can get from it is that mistakes a lot of businesses made was that they put down a cut down version of their desktop site as their mobile site. So it wasn't the full version. And what would happen is that someone would search that business on a mobile device and they would find a desktop URL, they click on that and then they get redirected to the mobile version of the site. Now Google sees that as a real problem and they call that a faulty redirect. And if you are running an Mdot site, a separate Mdot site, you may have some of those errors already in Google Search Console on the desktop. So, and basically it's messy to do that way. Now, because we're moving to a mobile first index, that means that the mobile index is going to be treated as the most important, meaning that users on mobile are going to be the most important. Now, if you've got an Mdot site, that means all of a sudden that becomes the most important piece of content for your business. And if you're doing it like most businesses are doing, which is badly, you're going to have a cut down version and you're going to probably lose a lot of traffic if you're doing it this way. So by having a single site and its responsive design, you get to only have to maintain one site, and it's just a lot easier, and you can be assured that you don't have to worry about different indexing issues and all those sorts of things. So Google's put together this handy guide, but unfortunately you can't get an automobile site, but you can get an automobile site. You see what I did there? And when I go and have a look at the automobile sites, let's have a look. So site, this is a search that you can do at home. What I'm doing here is I'm looking for mobile sites or sites at Mdot in Australia. At the moment, this search is saying site:/mdot.wildcard.gov.au. I didn't know I could use a wildcard in a site : operator, but you can, so that's cool. If then I go and have a look at .com.au, oops, it gives me all the .com.au sites at mobile. Now, I've been looking around this morning and can see that I saw that Ford has 7 results on Mdot, and I thought, ooh, hello. Turns out they've all been redirected properly and they're redirecting to their equivalent site. So it looks like Ford is getting away from the mobile site. However, their arch nemesis, Holden, is not. And you can see Holden here has got 822 results at m.holden.com.au, and I can actually surf to those results. So I can go to m.holden.com.au on my desktop, which is bad, right? Because I'm seeing a mobile version of the site on my desktop. I should be redirected at the very least to a desktop version of that content. So not only does Holden have Mdot site, they are allowing users, and presumably users on a mobile device can go straight to the desktop version of the site as well. I haven't actually tested that. But that's a real issue when we move to mobile first, and that could be a big problem. The other problem with something like this, of course, is duplicate content. So we've got a lot of duplicate content, and I've had a look at the the URLs. None of them are canonical. So normally with a mobile site, with an Mdot site, you might canonical it to the desktop equivalent page, but today I'd say just move to responsive design. These mobile pages are all canonicaled, self-referencing to themselves. So we've got duplication of content, and we've got an equivalent page on the mobile and an equivalent page on the desktop. But of course, with car manufacturers and dealerships, that's the least of their problems, because most of them have templated sites. The dealers out there anyway, and they're just copying all the content from the manufacturer. But if you do have an Mdot site, I would start planning and try to get it moved before the end of the year, because it looks like everyone's saying early next year we're going to have mobile first, but we don't really know. And I'd just like to say thank you for John Mueller for liking my tweet this morning when I asked anybody if they want an SEO audit. If you do want an SEO audit, just a freebie, I'll need obviously your domain name. It helps if you could add tech@stuartmedia.com.au to your search console so we can have a look and get it inside. And you've got to be freely willing to share your data with everyone else, and we can help people. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the show, just make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye.